Hi there, it's your boy Hooray Kasule. Welcome back LCGM fam. Let's chat global matters. For this video, I want to talk about the ongoing situation in South Africa. But before I continue, if you're here and you've not yet subscribed to my channel, please pause the video, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell for more juicy content. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. As I told you in my previous video, I'm currently residing in South Africa for my tertiary studies. And for the past couple of days, we've evidenced violent protests in South Africa. But before I give you my insight, I'll briefly take you through what exactly led to these protests.
Let's bring you some breaking news now. And the former South African President Jacob Zuma has been found guilty of contempt of court and has been sentenced to 15 months in jail. The country's top court issued the ruling on Tuesday. That's after he failed to appear before an inquiry investigating corruption during his time in office. The commission has been hearing allegations the wealthy Gupta family used its friendship with Zuma to win government contracts and influence policy.
Mr. Zuma is no ordinary litigant. He is the former president of the Republic of South Africa, who continues to wield significant political influence and in whom lies a great deal of power to incite others to similarly defy court orders. His actions and any consequences or lack thereof are being closely observed by the public. So if his conduct is met with impunity, he will do significant damage to the rule of law. The unique political position that Mr. Zuma enjoys as the former president constitutes a further exceptional feature of this matter that justifies a punitive sanction.
Now, the former South African president Jacob Zuma voluntarily handed himself over to police authorities 40 minutes before a midnight deadline on the 7th of July 2021 to begin serving a 15-month sentence. This was after the Constitutional Court, which happens to be South Africa's highest judicial body, found him guilty for failing to appear before a panel investigating corruption accusations that tainted his presidency from 2009 to 2018. This is where all hell broke loose. Mr. Zuma's arrest sparked violent protests that later escalated into looting and arson, mainly in KwaZulu-Natal, which is a province in South Africa where the private home of Mr. Jacob Zuma is situated.
Doing this? Why are people doing it? The train tracks were used as a form of escape by those lugging stolen goods, although many tried to avoid our camera.
Hungry, we are hungry.
You're hungry?
Yeah, not sure.
It was a sentiment expressed by many. Why are people looting? No food, no nothing, no work, he said. But you can't eat a bicycle! I can, he responded. Minister, do you have the situation here under control? Do you have the situation here under control? Because it doesn't look like it.
I mean, absolutely criminality.
At this point of the video, I'll now give my views of what the violent and criminal acts evidenced in various areas in South Africa mean for the country and its future. First and foremost, let's get this straight. I'm not in support of violence. In fact, I'm strongly against violent acts as a way of addressing issues, and I therefore agree with His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, the current President of South Africa, when he said in his national address that violence is a cost to property, livelihoods and businesses, and the loss of human lives as the greatest cost of all. I also stand to support His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa when he says that what we are witnessing now are opportunistic acts of criminality, with groups of people instigating chaos merely as a cover for looting and theft. In fact, it has been argued that Mr. Zuma's incarceration protests served as a base for the sheer looting and the intense acts of violence that later followed. But why? You and I might wonder. I feel like we need to ask ourselves this question so that the South African government can invest in dealing with the underlying causes of anger, such as those that we saw. But before I make any attempt to answer the question, I'll first pause here and stress the fact that I, for one, I don't condone violence. I really think that South Africa's apartheid history continues to haunt the country. It appears to me that the structural inequalities that spring from the apartheid regime explain the conflicts seen in the different parts of the country. During the apartheid rule, Black people were exposed to deliberate mediocre education, legislations which prevented them from residing in or conducting business in the inner city, as well as laws that prohibited them from different kinds of business ownership. Although a number of circumstances have improved for Black people since 1994, unemployment has multiplied, and the same groups which are the Blacks who struggled and suffered oppression under apartheid now pitifully endure the cost of the persistent rise in unemployment in the country that currently stands at 32%. Unlike their white counterparts, youths of the Black race continue to suffer low and poor education standards, unfair job reservations. They are seen as a source of cheap labor and are increasingly excluded from the mainstream economy. I'm made to believe that the protests that followed Zuma's arrest portray the generalized anger and frustration over the inequality that persists 27 years after the fall of apartheid. Many Black South Africans continue to suffer issues of hunger due to poverty that has been worsened by severe social and economic restrictions aimed at curbing the spread of COVID-19, as the country still records the highest confirmed cases of 2.2 million on the African continent. I also see it fit that we ask ourselves the question, why these protests were mainly concentrated in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. This has been attributed to the fact that Mr. Zuma is a resident of KwaZulu-Natal, whereas it is in Gauteng where most black people are concentrated. Like I also mentioned, it is within Gauteng where the country's biggest city, Johannesburg, is located. We also need to remember that South Africa records one of the highest income inequality rates in the world, and income inequality contributes to extreme poverty. Now, the extreme income inequality in South Africa translates into the high urban poverty rates seen in major cities of the country, such as Johannesburg. For a better and stable South Africa in the future, the government ought to up their game in ensuring sustainable employment for the black population in the country. The government should strongly advocate for and invest in educating black people so that they can get the skills needed to be employed. The government also needs to ensure proper and up-to-date service delivery for poor and vulnerable people of the country, especially those living in townships. I feel like these are key strategies to, number one, narrowing the inequality gap, and two, putting a stop to the anger, hunger, and frustration seen among the people. However, I'm of the view that where South Africans feel dissatisfied, there are always more peaceful ways of protesting and addressing issues than resorting to violence. Good enough, the Constitution of South Africa supports protesting, otherwise violence only affects the country, more so during a pandemic. For instance, the economy has been affected, more jobs are now lost, which increases the unemployment rate, the COVID-19 cases might surge, and it has of course disrupted the vaccination process and led to shortage of food. Clearly, these are things that these angry people didn't think about. I mean, it's very absurd. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I'll be very glad to read your insights on this matter. Also, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the video. See you in the next video. Bye!